Commission Christian Radio presents Nicodemus, the Faithful Pharisee by Colm, Flanagan. Episode 5, Dangerous Times.
During the week leading to the Passover, the city of Jerusalem was a crowded place. Jewish pilgrims from all around the Mediterranean Sea and from even further afield made their way to the holy city. Inevitably, it was a time of high tension. The Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, had caused uproar in the past by violating temple rules. Violent riots had ensued. Blood was shed before the matter was resolved. Pilate had to back down. But he held a grudge well, and the Jews were only too aware of that. Then, into this agitated mix came Jesus of Nazareth.
But Nicodemus, this Jesus is provoking the high priest and others. He and his father-in-law Annas seem determined to nip any rebellion in the bud as they see it. Have you heard the latest?
No, I don't think so.
Well, despite what Jesus did, overturning the traders' tables, he's reappeared and he's teaching in the temple courts. Some of the Sanhedrin are taking notes. They're gathering evidence for a trial. Nicodemus, I know you've sympathies with this man, but don't you see how dangerous the situation is? If you've any influence at all with him, try and get him to leave the city and go back to Galilee. If he won't go right now, then at least tell him to keep his head down until after Passover. Then slip back home without provoking any more of the leaders.
I'll try, Samuel, although I don't carry much weight.
Well, maybe more than you think. Personally, I've seen enough bloodshed at Passover, and I'm not talking about the animals and the birds.
Well, but Jesus speaks a lot about peace.
He told people in the temple precinct they were thieves.
Oh, he wasn't far wrong. But all right, I will see what I can do. I believe he's not staying in the city, but out at Bethany with Lazarus and his sisters.
I visited Bethany, but was told that Jesus and his disciples were not staying there. Apparently, Jesus wanted to distance himself, as Lazarus was receiving death threats. He'd said, "You're in danger when I am here. You will stay well if I leave." So, over the next few days, all I heard was hearsay. It was as though Jesus had the power of just disappearing. Then, on the Passover evening, I heard bad news.
Who comes knocking my door at this hour?
Rabbi Nicodemus, I'm a follower of Jesus. I must speak with you.
Very well. Just a moment. Who are you and where's your tunic?
My name's John Mark. My mother is related to your wife, and I am, or was, a follower of Jesus. My father knows Rabbi Gamaliel well.
Oh, you'd better come in. Let's go through to the courtyard.
Now, young Mark, get your breath back and tell me why you need to see me so urgently.
Jesus of Nazareth has been arrested by the temple guard.
What? I thought he wasn't in Jerusalem.
Oh, yes. He and his followers had the Passover meal, and when it got dark, he and the disciples went to the orchard on the Mount of Olives.
Mark, were you with them for the Passover?
No, but I'd hung around the room where they were. I'd seen Judas Iscariot come out. He looked around and disappeared in the direction of Caiaphas' house. I had a feeling Jesus and his disciples would eventually come out as he did. I followed them from a distance. They went to the Garden of Gethsemane. Most of the disciples went to sleep, but Jesus took 3 with him to a quiet spot. He left them, and I saw him kneeling in prayer. His face shone in the moonlight. Then I saw lights and voices and a whole squad of guards, and some others surrounded Jesus. I saw Judas again with them. He led them to Jesus. How could he do such a thing? Then there was a lot of shouting, and some of the hangers-on spotted me. They caught me unawares. I wrenched myself away. That's how I lost my tunic. And they chased me, but I outran them and came to your door. I overheard a shout, "Take him to Caiaphas!" So I knew it wasn't just a mob. They'd all been sent to take Jesus. The disciples fled in all directions, but they left them alone.
As Mark finished his story, I felt my blood turn cold. Clearly, the plotting of the high priest had led to action. Jesus was in mortal peril. John Mark left to go home, but what could I do? And then yet another person started knocking at my door.
Yes, what is it? What brings a member of the temple guard to my door at this time?
Rabbi Nicodemus, I regret disturbing you, but I come from the high priest. He would value your attendance at his house for a discussion on a matter of mutual interest. It concerns the preacher from Nazareth, Jesus.
Yes, very well. Just wait a moment while I get ready.
I told Elizabeth I might be out for a long time and then left. When I arrived at Caiaphas's residence, I found him waiting with Joseph of Arimathea and another Sanhedrin member, Simon, whom I knew was an outspoken enemy of Jesus. Annas, Caiaphas's father-in-law, was there also. This did not look good.
So, gentlemen, we are gathered here at my urgent request. We must deal with this man, Jesus of Nazareth.
What exactly do you mean, deal with, Caiaphas?
Joseph, you know well enough. Have you not been in our council meetings already? This man is a threat. We cannot permit him to continue to flout our law and our authority.
He viciously attacked the traders in the temple.
Oh, hardly vicious, Simon. He simply turned their tables over. You know they push their prices up at feast time. Annas, I have warned about this practice and the resentment it causes.
Nevertheless, Nicodemus, they are our agents. They represent our authority.
Well, they sometimes overstep the mark, but we cannot permit our position as keepers of the temple to be challenged.
So, what are you proposing?
We need rid of this man, Jesus.
Hush, Simon. Control yourself. Me? I'm not proposing anything. Look, gentlemen, we must conduct our affairs correctly. But I would remind you that this is a difficult time. Pilate is here in Jerusalem, and if there are disturbances, we know what he will do. His track record in diplomacy is, shall we say, poor. But we have to work with him. A challenge to us is a challenge to him, and at least that's how he'll see it. Believe me.
But what are we to do? This man is performing miracles.
So we hear, but I have my doubts.
You may, Annas, but the ordinary people believe it. If we don't stop him, then people will say that he is the Messiah. They will start to follow him. Then Pilate and the Romans will destroy us and our nation.
Simon, please calm down. We are not yet at that stage. And don't you realize that it would be better for one person to die for the people than let the whole nation be destroyed?
You mean that you would...
Yes, of course.
But that is monstrous. We cannot condemn a man to death for doing good.
Sometimes, my good Nicodemus, it is necessary for us to embark upon difficult actions to preserve a greater good.
I want no part of this.
Joseph, you don't have any choice. You are of the council and we must decide what is to be done.
There will have to be a trial.
Very well. We will question him in front of the council.
We must have witnesses. You cannot condemn a man without it. The law requires it.
Witnesses there are. The man Jesus himself said that the people heard him speak many times. I have no doubt that when you see this man and experience his attitude, which I must say is unhelpful, you may change your mind.
So the members of the full council were summoned. Most of them were not at all pleased to be roused in the middle of the night. Such a thing had not happened in living memory. But Caiaphas and his father-in-law were not to be disobeyed. So many of the Sanhedrin filled the room, and Caiaphas wasted no time in moving proceedings as he wished.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry to call you out at this hour of the night, but believe me, it is absolutely necessary. Events have moved quickly, and we must make a decision about this man, Jesus of Nazareth. As you no doubt know, he has been stirring up the people and recently even caused a riot in the temple. We cannot afford to have these itinerant preachers causing such upset. I am informed he has spoken against the Lord God and even claims to be sent from him. We must find out the facts and take the appropriate action.
High Priest, I have asked before, why is this matter so urgent? Surely there have been such preachers before, and action has not been taken against them.
It is more than that, Nicodemus. Let us not forget the mood of the people and of the Romans at this time. Anything which disturbs the city will be viewed by them with suspicion. What is the general feeling about this? Simon?
I agree, High Priest. I think we must move to trial immediately. If you had been in the temple, you would have seen what was going...
Yes, we will come to that later, Simon.
I agree with Simon. This matter must be sorted quickly. We cannot have a riot.
Why should we have a riot? Jesus is not a rabble-rouser. I myself have seen and heard what he is saying and doing.
But what about the temple riot?
Gentlemen, I ask you all, do we move to trial?
No.
Yes.
Very well then. Let us have the man Jesus in and send for the witnesses.
You have witnesses already? I thought this man was only arrested earlier tonight.
Joseph, people have been passing evidence to my associates already. Everything is prepared. Let us delay no longer.
And so the trial began. Witnesses were indeed called, but there was a problem. They couldn't agree on what they said. The case for the prosecution was looking weak, I thought, despite Caiaphas's work. Then a new witness spoke.
I, and others, heard this Jesus say he would tear down the temple and build another one in 3 days, without any help.
Might this not have been simply a figure of speech? Maybe he was referring to a spiritual temple, the presence of God with us.
You may say that. I think I should know what I heard.
Indeed, it is clearly an inflammatory statement. And you are sure?
Well, it was something like that.
Do you mean you are not sure?
Well...
This man is not reliable. He clearly doesn't know what he heard.
Oh, for goodness sake. Are we to go on like this all night? You, Jesus from Nazareth, why don't you say something in your own defence? Don't you hear the charges they are making against you? All right then. I put it to you. With the living God looking on, you must tell the truth. Tell us, are you the Messiah, the Son of the one true God?
Yes, I am. But I tell all of you, soon you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of God the All-Powerful and coming with the clouds of heaven.
What did he say? Did you hear that? Did you?
At last! Now we come to the truth of it, gentlemen. Gentlemen, I formally tear my robes in the presence of a blasphemer. You heard this man claim to be God. Why do we need further witnesses? What he says is an insult against the Most High. What is your decision?
Blasphemy! He must be put to death.
The so-called trial was a sham. But what could be done? Was it too late to save Jesus from a stoning? Or worse? The next few hours would be critical. The meeting was dismissed and everyone went home, leaving the high priest and his father-in-law to carry out the expressed wish of the majority. I went home, heartsore and depressed. In the small hours of the morning, I fell into a fitful dream in which the character of Jesus kept disappearing, and I was left alone.
In the story of Nicodemus, the faithful Pharisee, the part of Nicodemus was played by Mark Clanny. Other parts were played by members of the Commission radio drama team. The play was written and produced at Commission Studios in Belfast by Colm Flanagan. Episode 6 is entitled A Request and More.